Reclaiming the divine calling, a journey back to authentic purpose. There is a stirring in the quiet corners of your heart, a gentle reminder that you were once chosen, set apart with a sacred mission and anointed with divine wisdom. Yet amid the noise of modern life, this divine connection can seem to slip away unnoticed. This narrative is for those of you who feel that fading glow of spiritual fire, for those who have come to the crossroads of life wondering whether you are still walking in the fullness of your divine calling. As you read these words, I invite you to pause and reflect. What does it mean for you to be God's chosen? I encourage you to comment below with your thoughts on whether you feel that divine spark within you, and if you are ready to reclaim that priceless calling. The weight of chosen status. Remember a time when each day was infused with a palpable sense of purpose, when even the smallest moments carried the resonance of heaven, and your life seemed to be a living testimony of God's extraordinary plan. For many, that purpose begins with the profound realization that you are chosen, a divine blueprint etched in eternal love. But what happens when that clarity begins to wane? When the powerful anointing that once set your soul ablaze dims to a flicker? Consider the message that calls you by name, urging you to awaken before it's too late. It tells you that the heavenly calling isn't a permanent title. It is a privilege that must be guarded and nurtured daily. When your heart becomes distracted and your spiritual practices slip into mechanical routines, the very essence of that chosen status starts to erode. Pause here for a moment and ask yourself, when did your prayers last truly move you to tears? When did you feel the undeniable presence of God stirring in your midst? I invite you to share your experiences, or even just a yes in the comments, if your prayers once felt like a river of life and are now in need of that divine replenishment. The subtle drift away. Imagine the gradual fading of a vibrant flame, a beautiful fire slowly diminished by the chill of neglect. Many who were once vibrant vessels of divine light now find their spiritual gifts blocked by subtle acts of compromise. This narrative is not meant to condemn, but to awaken, reminding you that the drift away from your divine essence is often imperceptible until it becomes a chasm. There is a parallel in the scriptures. Many are called, but few are chosen. Those chosen by God are not guaranteed permanence. Rather, their status is conditional upon continually aligning with the divine will. Reflect on this. What aspects of your daily life have replaced intimacy with God? Is your worship a ritual or a heartfelt communion? When you recall the glory of past spiritual encounters, what stands out? The transcendent power of prayer or the convenience of routine? Share in the comments what you miss most about experiencing God's presence in its full burning intensity. Your reflections might spark a conversation that reawakens that divine intimacy in others as well. Recognizing the signs of spiritual decay. A common theme throughout the divine message is the recognition of spiritual decline and the signs that reveal it. There are 5 silent destroyers that threaten to strip away your status as God's chosen vessel. These are not sudden explosions, but rather gentle erosions of your spiritual life. The rise of ego and the loss of humility. When pride replaces humility, the divine gifts once manifested in you begin to shrink. The transformation is subtle, a slow but steady creeping in of self-importance, making you forget that those gifts were not earned but entrusted by the Almighty. In your moments of reflection, have you ever noticed yourself taking more credit than you should? I urge you to think about these moments and comment with your insights on how humility has played a role in your spiritual growth. Abandonment of spiritual discipline. There was a time when discipline was the bedrock of your spiritual journey. Early rising for prayer, dedicated Bible study, and unyielding commitment to worship once defined your days. Now, perhaps these practices have become casual check-offs in a busy life. Ask yourself, Is the vibrancy of your spiritual life really being nurtured by your current habits? Write in the comments if you believe reconnecting with disciplined prayer and fasting can revive the fire within you. Uncontrolled desires and misused passions. Our very human desires, when misdirected, can drain the reservoir of divine power. The misuse of sexual energy, for instance, is not just a personal failing, but a misalignment from God's intended design for passion and creativity. Think back. Has there been a time when you felt that pursuing fleeting pleasures left you spiritually depleted? This is a tough question, and your honest reflections in the comments might just be the first step toward healing and realignment. Choosing relationships over divine connection. Our relationships are potent, and the energy we invest in them can either bolster or weaken our divine assignment. When we choose to surround ourselves with those who drain us, we compromise our spiritual focus. Look at the relationships that define your everyday interactions. Are they uplifting your soul, or are they distractions that pull you away from your true calling? Engage in the comments by sharing how you nurture relationships that build up your spiritual life. Living for recognition instead of divine approval. Modern society prizes validation from external sources, yet true spiritual fulfillment comes from living in constant alignment with God's will, not from the applause of others. When your actions are fueled by the need for attention rather than a genuine desire to serve, you inadvertently risk losing the sacred anointing bestowed upon you. Reflect on your motivations. Are you driven by the need to be seen or by a deep longing to honor what is holy? I encourage you to share in the comments what keeps you grounded in the pursuit of divine approval over fleeting human admiration. The call for immediate restoration. The message is clear. Restoration is not an option. It is a necessity. The divine promise offers you a chance to reclaim what is rightfully yours, to restore the covenant that once ignited your spiritual life. This restoration is both a challenge and an opportunity. It requires immediate action, a burning commitment to turning away from distractions and stepping back into a life that mirrors the glory of God's anointing. Consider this your wake-up call. Every moment spent disconnected is a victory for the forces that seek to diminish your light. The higher your calling, the more fiercely the enemy fights to block your divine destiny. Yet the promise remains unwavering. When you realign with your first love, when you rebuild the sacred disciplines, restoration is not only possible but imminent. I encourage you, dear listener, to type, "I reclaim my purpose" in the comments. If these words ignite a burning desire in your heart to take that first step back to your divine essence, your declaration is the spark that not only lights your own path, but can also guide others who have lost their way. A blueprint for reclaiming your spiritual authority. So how do you reclaim your chosen status? The path is both clear and challenging. It begins with a moment of honest self-examination, confronting the behaviors and distractions that have slowly stripped you of your divine connection. The following steps form a blueprint for restoration. Burn away distractions. Examine what currently occupies your time. Endless scrolling on social media, toxic relationships, and the lure of worldly pleasures. Ask yourself, what is truly pulling you away from your divine focus? I invite you to comment with one distraction you're ready to put to rest. The moment you decide to let go, you open the door to reclaiming your purpose. Reignite your vision. Take pen and paper and rewrite the vision God originally inspired in you, not the watered-down version that comfort has settled into, but the bold, unfiltered dream of destiny that once set your heart on fire. What was that original whisper of purpose? Reflect on it and share a snippet of your vision in the comments if you feel moved to rekindle that passion. Embrace sacred discipline. Recommit to the practices that have once nurtured your soul: early morning prayers, fasting, and deep communion with the Scriptures. The discipline of these sacred acts is not an obligation, but an invitation to draw closer to the divine. How often do you find time for these quiet moments with God? Share your challenges and breakthroughs below. Let us learn from one another's journeys toward disciplined faith. Cultivate solitude for divine connection. In a world filled with constant chatter and relentless noise, make it a point to withdraw into moments of solitude. It is in these quiet hours, perhaps as early as 3:20 a.m., that you can truly hear the voice of God. Have you ever experienced the stillness of early morning prayer? Describe your experience in the comments. Your story might encourage someone else to take that step. Deactivate the noise of social validation. For a period, step away from the temptation of constant social media engagement. This intentional break can create the space necessary for divine reconnection. If you've ever taken a digital detox or felt the pull to disconnect from external validation, let us know how that experience transformed your outlook. The battle for spiritual authority. There is a profound truth at the heart of this journey. Being chosen is not a state of passive grace, but an active battle against both internal complacency and external deception. The Scriptures remind us that while God's gifts are irrevocable, the maintenance of those gifts depends on our unwavering commitment to His ways. This is not just a personal battle, it is a spiritual warfare where every distraction, every compromise is a tactic of the enemy. The enemy does not shout his challenges from the rooftops. He whispers doubts and convinces you that your status as chosen is secure, even as your lifestyle betrays that truth. Just as in the days of David, Moses, and Peter, your calling is under constant attack. Their stories are not just ancient texts, they are living testimonies of how divine favor can wane, if not vigilantly guarded. Each time you surrender to fleeting pleasures or allow your discipline to erode, you are momentarily gifting the enemy ground. Yet, this struggle is not a defeat. On the contrary, it is a sign of the importance of your destiny. The more fiercely you protect and nurture your divine assignment, the more evident it becomes that your spiritual journey is worth fighting for. I ask you now, have you ever felt that the challenges in your life are part of a greater battle for your soul? Type "under attack, yet still standing" in the comments if you recognize the truth of this spiritual warfare and your resolve to fight back. The power of covenant and restoration. Before you took your first breath, a divine contract was already in place, a covenant written not in ink but in the eternal language of the Spirit. This covenant, sealed with God's own promise, calls you to remember who you truly are. It is the assurance that regardless of the distractions and compromises, your destiny remains untouched by any transient failure. In those moments when you feel disconnected from your divine purpose, remember the promise of restoration found in the Scriptures. Like the prodigal son who was welcomed home with open arms, you too are invited back into the warm embrace of God's love. The Almighty's hands are still extended toward you, ready to restore what has been lost, ready to ignite the fire that once burned so brightly. I invite you now to consider the moments in your life when you felt the tender pull of that covenant. Is there a memory, a prayer that was answered, a divine spark that illuminated the darkness? Share that memory in the comments below. Your testimony might be the beacon of hope someone else desperately needs on their journey back to purpose. Embracing the remnant, living as the true chosen. There exists within the church a core, a remnant that remains untouched by the distractions of this world. These are the spiritual firekeepers who have refused to let their connection with God waver. They are not defined by the numbers of their followers or the volume of their voices, but by the quiet confidence that comes from a heart wholly devoted to God. The true remnant is characterized by sacrifice, obedience, and a willingness to stand apart from a culture that increasingly values recognition over relationship. If you have ever felt that you were on the outskirts of mainstream spirituality, that the call of God set you apart from the crowd, know that you are among this chosen few. I ask you, do you identify as part of this remnant? Share your feelings and tag a friend in the comments who has also walked a path less traveled in pursuit of true divine connection. Daily reminders and declarations. Throughout this journey of reclamation and restoration, daily reminders play a crucial role. Reminders to reject the distractions, to reconnect with your sacred disciplines, and to honor the divine calling placed within you. Each day is an opportunity to declare, I return in the covenant, to reassert your commitment to living a life that reflects the glory of God's calling. Take a moment now, if you haven't already, to reflect and share your declaration in the comments. Type, I return in the covenant, as a personal affirmation of your commitment to reclaim your spiritual authority. Let those words resonate in your heart as a constant reminder that you were not chosen by accident, but by divine design. Walking the path of restoration. The journey back to your rightful spiritual position will not be easy. There will be moments of struggle, times when the battle feels too great and the distractions too numerous. But know this, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward reawakening the divine power within you. Restoration begins with a conscious decision, a decision to silence the noise, to break the chains of complacency, and to reclaim the love and power that have always been yours. Consider the struggles faced by the great biblical figures, Moses, David, Peter, and how each of their journeys included moments of deep trial and transformative renewal. Their experiences are not just stories of the past. They are mirrors reflecting the very battles you face today. How can their experiences guide you in your current walk? I urge you to contemplate this and share your reflections. What lessons from the lives of these biblical heroes resonate with you most strongly? The invitation to engage. This message is not meant to be a monologue. It is a conversation, an invitation for dialogue in the comments. As you journey through these reflections, please do not hesitate to comment below with your insights, your struggles, and even your victories. In sharing your story, you join a community of believers who are determined to reclaim and protect the divine calling that unites us all. Have you ever experienced a moment of divine reconnection? A time when the veil between your soul and God grew thin and you felt a resurgence of spiritual strength? Let us know in the comments how that moment impacted you and encourage others with your story. By engaging openly, we strengthen each other's resolve to remain among the true chosen, a remnant defined not by perfection, but by relentless faith and commitment. A new season of restoration. Imagine a future where your spiritual fire is no longer a flicker, but a blazing beacon, a light so powerful that those around you cannot help but be drawn to its radiance. A future where every distraction is cast aside in favor of divine alignment, and your life becomes the testimony of restored glory. This future is within your grasp. The prophetic declaration is clear. Your divine appointment is not behind you, but is waiting to be activated at this very moment. As you set aside the habits that have dimmed your light, let your commitment serve as a testament to others. The world is in dire need of leaders who do not shy away from the truth but embrace it fully. In your own life, you are called to be the exemplification of divine redemption. I encourage you to declare below. Comment, I reclaim my position, to symbolize your readiness to step into this new season of restoration. Your declaration is not merely a statement of intent. It is an act of spiritual warfare against anything that would diminish your calling. the crisis and the comeback at times. It may seem that all hope is lost, that the weight of distraction and the burden of unhealed wounds are too heavy to bear. Yet the divine narrative is never one of defeat. It is a story of comebacks, of miraculous returns from the edge of spiritual despair. Each trial you face is but a forge, refining you and preparing you for the greater glory that awaits. It is in these moments of crisis that God's grace shines the brightest, offering you a second chance to rise above the darkness. Ask yourself, how many times have you experienced a setback, only to find that each fall was followed by a powerful resurgence of faith? Reflect on the personal comebacks you have witnessed in your own life and share them in the comments. Your story may be the catalyst that inspires someone else to take that necessary step toward reclaiming their divine calling. The unyielding promise of the covenant central to this journey is the irrevocable nature of the covenant God established with you even before you were born. This covenant is not diminished by moments of doubt or distractions. It is sealed with a promise that transcends time and circumstance. In your moments of weakness, when you feel the pull of worldly desires or the heavy burden of compromise, remember that your name is written in the book of life and your destiny is secure. How has the promise of this covenant sustained you through your darkest moments? I invite you to share your testimony in the comments. Each story is a powerful reminder that no distance can ever separate you from the love of God, and no failure can void the call that has been placed upon your life. Engaging with the divine and one another throughout this narrative, one message reverberates. You are not alone on this journey. The call to restoration is not an invitation to retreat into solitary introspection, but an opportunity to connect with a community that shares your passion for authentic, uncompromised faith. As you comment, read the reflections of others. Let each declaration become a spark that lights a communal flame, an unstoppable force that lifts every heart closer to the divine. Consider starting a conversation. What one practice, be it morning solitude, a digital detox, or a heartfelt prayer, has had the most transformative impact on your spiritual life? Share your tips and experiences in the comments so that together we can build a network of support and inspiration. The ongoing battle of spiritual warfare. Every day is a battleground in the war for your spiritual authority. Invisible forces are constantly at work, seeking to undermine the very essence of what it means to be chosen by God. Yet these attacks are not signs of failure. They are confirmations of the power and presence you carry. Just as David fought off his enemies, even when the odds were stacked against him, so too must you rise and proclaim that your purpose is not surrendered, but fiercely defended. Ask yourself, have you felt the sting of spiritual warfare in your daily life? How do you discern the voice of the enemy from the whisper of God? I challenge you to reflect deeply and leave a comment sharing your insights. Your experiences can spark a dialogue that fortifies others in their battles, reminding all that the enemy's assault is only proof of the importance of your calling. Declaring your return to divine authority, this is the moment to stand tall and declare that you will not let the distractions of this world rob you of your divine inheritance. The time for complacency is over. You are being called back to restore, renew, and reclaim your spiritual authority with all the fervor of a heart set ablaze. When you boldly affirm your readiness to return in the covenant, you are not just declaring a personal commitment. You are joining the ranks of the true remnant, those few who have refused to let their spiritual fire be extinguished. In the comments, please type, "I reclaim my purpose," if you are ready to reaffirm your identity as God's chosen vessel. Let your declaration be the loud and clear announcement that you will no longer be swayed by the fleeting approvals of the world, but will firmly anchor your identity in the everlasting promise of the divine covenant. the promise of restoration, and the power of community. The restoration of your spiritual authority is imminent. It is woven into the very fabric of the divine plan. The same God who restored David, who raised Peter from despair, is calling you to rise again from any trial or setback. This is a collective call, a reminder that you are part of a larger narrative that spans generations. Each act of restoration in your life is a testament to a power greater than any human weakness. I encourage you to not only reflect on your own restoration, but also to support others as they journey through their struggles. Comment below with a word of encouragement. For someone who might be battling spiritual numbness or distraction, your supportive words can serve as a lifeline, reminding someone that they are not alone and that their divine purpose is still alive and waiting to be claimed. A final exhortation to embrace divine identity in closing. This journey back to your chosen status is not about striving for perfection. It is about surrendering to a process of continuous refinement and awakening. The path of the chosen is marked by its willingness to confront doubts, to dismantle the barriers of pride and complacency, and to rebuild a life that echoes with the unyielding truth of God's word. I leave you with one final invitation. As you read these words, let them spark a revolution within your heart. Reflect on the precious truth that you are not defined by your past failures or temporary distractions. You are defined by the eternal covenant that binds you to the Creator. Share with us in the comments, what is one step you commit to taking today to reclaim your divine calling? Let your words be the first drops of a mighty river of transformation that flows from your restored spirit. Remember, every moment is a new beginning, every breath a chance to re-engage with the divine. Do not let this opportunity pass by. The time is now to embrace your identity as one of God's chosen, to stand with the remnant, and to reclaim your mission with bold, unshakable courage. Your journey may be challenging, but with every step, you are drawing closer to the fulfillment of the promise that God has inscribed on your heart. As you commit to this journey, know that the divine presence is already at work within you, preparing you to become the beacon of light that the world so desperately needs. Rest assured, as you engage in the comments and share your declarations, you are not just speaking words, you are activating spiritual power that resonates in the heavenly courts. May these words inspire you to take decisive action, to abandon the fleeting comfort of distraction, and to reawaken to the truth of your divine identity. The restoration is not only a promise, it is your destiny. Step forward, reclaim the purpose that was always meant for you, and let your life become a testimony of revival and hope. Comment and engage. At this pivotal moment, I invite you to share your thoughts, experiences, and commitments in the comments below. Do you feel that the divine spark within you is flickering? Have you noticed signs of spiritual drift in your daily life? What is one step you can take today to restore that passionate connection with the divine? Type, "I reclaim my purpose," if you are ready to declare your return to God's intended path. Your voice matters. Your story might just be the catalyst that sparks someone else's journey of restoration. In conclusion, the story of your spiritual journey is one of transformation and redemption. Every heart that beats in alignment with God's will contributes to the tapestry of His kingdom. Let the conversation begin. Let us encourage one another, support one another, and remind ourselves of the eternal truth. You are seen, you are loved, and you are chosen for a purpose that transcends this life. The restoration has begun. Step into it with a courageous heart and a joyful spirit.